what I want to say about business is that, obviously my journey has been short, but what I think is the coolest thing is that we all go to school, we all learn stuff, but when we get into business, it starts with an idea and a passion and some sort of outcome that we want in mind. Yet once business carries on, we realize that we don't really have any education around it. And so who we are when we come into business is very different to who we are 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, because we constantly meet people, we're constantly learning stuff, and we realize that business doesn't just happen. I mean, that's why, 96% of businesses don't succeed. So it's really awesome to have people come together. People have been the biggest impact in my life, particularly at the moment. Alex and Stu have both been major mentors for me and blessings, which I'll talk about it, how I've finally found that God has fitted into business. It was something that I hadn't got my head around for a while. But what I kind of want to start off is who I am right now, what I do, what my passion is, and what my vision is. So my name's Anthony. I'm 20 years old, very young for business, but that's what excites me the most. And I know some of you guys are younger, some are older, and I'm sure we can all agree that how business was done when you guys were younger, when you guys were starting out, is very different for how business is done now, meaning someone like Karen or myself can come into a business, use our network on Facebook or something, and have a business global in the space of a couple of days. It's completely different to you guys where you would have to, pick up the call, build through maybe an internet database if that existed, and eventually try and get global. So what I do now and what my passion is I work with people in a one-on-one situation, people who are either facing something in their life that they want to overcome, people who want to elevate their standards, so taking their life to the next level, or people who just want to learn to love themselves and find fulfillment in who they are and what they're doing and where they are in life. Some people call that life coaching. I kind of like to say a life success strategist. I don't really like to put a box around it. It's more the outcome that you get from it. So my passion is really seeing why people live the way they are, why some people can feel a certain way and live in a certain way when others can't, and helping people maximize that, helping people get the best out of who they are. And I will talk a little bit about my journey to finding that and realizing what was possible, because I talk about why and how I've got to a point where I am today in the last 10 months. And what's really happened is, if you looked at me, say, 15 months ago when I was 19, I came out of university, and I was someone who was, a result of my environment, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but meaning I was following what was happening around me and not setting my own standards, setting my own reality, meaning I spent time with the same people, nothing wrong with that. I was, following a trend, and I didn't really have any purpose, have any massive desires, more living for the weekends and just following a day-to-day life. It was fun, it was chill, I was always happy, but there was none of that sense of massive purpose, massive desire to go after something. And then within a 10-month period, and this is what I tell people when I coach them, why I feel like I can really coach people, is in a 10-month period, I went from someone who was doing all that to, building friendships in about 12 different countries, building friends through people who are multimillionaires, authors, coaches, learning from all these people, someone finding fulfillment in who they are, starting to love life, have better relationships, have far better health, and have a far better quality of life in such a short time, and then going into business in that 10-month period. I had to look back on it and be like, what actually happened here? Because, we can easily skip forward a time in life and come back and look at it and be like, okay, now let me figure out what I've actually done, because then you can go ahead and teach that to other people. And then my reasons for really why I do this now, because serving is what I feel I want to do in various ways. We all have a way to serve, is that whatever you find your passion and desire in, that's where you're going to find the most success, I believe. And I believe, you can get paid the most for doing what you love, definitely, because you can bring a whole new, reality to that. I have a vision to really be speaking around the world, speaking in front of thousands of people, sharing information. I don't know if anyone's heard of Anthony Robbins, but he's been my big inspiration. I actually get to go and see him in about 2.5 weeks. I can't even wait. I got a trip to Asia after that, which I can't even think about. I'm too excited for this 4 weeks coming up. But just being able to see someone literally transform their lives. I've been having revelation lately of people coming from terrible points in life and transforming them. But I also want to work with people who are real go-getters and want to be able to set a high standard for themselves and for the people around them. So for me, how did I get to this point? It was coming out of high school. I remember the feeling, the day high school finished, year 13 for me, which was last year of high school, was that feeling of, okay, it's just school, get me through it. The day high school finished, I literally can remember a feeling of freedom. That's what it was. It was two feelings. One was there was freedom, meaning no more school, no more rules, And the second was no more education, meaning I don't have to learn anymore, which is funny because I'm addicted to learning right now. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just kind of figured at some stage in my life I would have to find a suitable job, suitable being a key word there, because that's what I knew. So I spent some time, I went traveling. I went over to the US at age 18, traveling by yourself. Mum couldn't even come out to the airport because she was too upset that day, too worried. I remember getting the call in the morning. But what I did there, kind of, not reluctantly, but ignorantly, was I went and worked at a summer camp for 10 weeks with kids who had physical disabilities, which as an 18-year-old with very little training and having to work with people who are blind, who are in wheelchairs, who you have to change their diapers, who are 15-year-old kids, is an experience. But when you get thrown in and immerse yourself in something, you learn from it. And what I found in this 10 weeks was that, using what we already possess that we don't appreciate, you can literally transform someone's life. Giving someone, just giving someone your effort, your time in 1 week. I was in tears, probably more than the kids were after having that good week, realizing what it was doing for me. And then I spent the next 4 months traveling the US. Again, experiences which probably a lot of 18-year-old kids shouldn't get themselves into, but I'm blessed that I was able to get into these situations to learn from. At this time, I did not have God in my life. He comes a little bit later. So even coming back to New Zealand, I remember it got to a point where I sat down with my brother, who in my mind, I knew was going to be successful because I believe the smartest people at school are the ones who are most successful. And he's someone very successful in accounting, was one of the top students at Auckland University. And I sat down with him, very clearly I remember this. He said, okay, look, you got 2 options. We're talking about a career here. You got 2 options, mate. Number 1 is you can get a job and you can, work your ass off up to here. Number 2 is that you can you go to university, get a head start, and work your way up that way. And I remember looking at him being like, you're right. You're right. Now, just on a side tangent here, when we look at this, I'm going like this up to the top. There's this whole thing which I've got my head around is that we're all after a sense of completion. One of the things I will touch on in a second is that we can feel a certain way when we get to this, instead of saying, no, we can feel a certain way and that'll take us to this, if that makes sense. I'll go into that a bit deeper. So I decided that because I thought I wasn't creative, I seemed to do good in economic and go into business. I had friends doing it. It seemed like it would be good. I went into university in 2013, January, and I was there in a good mindset. I was ready to learn. I was ready to do well. But what I found was that quite quickly, what I was learning, not just the fact that I couldn't learn it and apply it today, meaning maybe someday I'll be able to apply it, but it didn't feel that relevant for me. And because this is what I experienced in school, which is why I didn't want to be there, 9 weeks into uni, I said to my mom, I said to my dad, I said to my brother, I don't know what's out there for me, but I can't stay here at university. I can force myself through it, but that's the thing can't say forcing myself through it. That bag I take to uni every day is going to feel heavier than just a couple of books. Right? So I actually decided to leave, which at the time, not a lot of support. And I've always been someone who struggled with criticism, struggled with how people would perceive me. And I had, aunties doubting what I was doing. I had my mom doubting what I was doing. Luckily, my dad is just more indifferent. He's like, I trust you. He's always trusted me. I'm like, I appreciate that. My brother coming on to me. So I left New Zealand. I had an auntie in Sydney. I said, I'll go over there. I was able to work with a good company called Nespresso, working in sales. But just before that time, some interesting things came into my life. I don't know if anyone knows a guy named Ethan Rasmussen, Life North. We connected again. We started playing basketball together. And my testimony with God starts with him because I was someone who was very closed off to the idea of God, very logical family, and that God didn't make perfect logic to me, that there was something that created the world without any science. But he just started sharing stories and testimonies, and you can't ignore a story or a testimony because it shocks your reality. In New Zealand, and then I was given a book called Think and Grow Rich. I don't know if anybody has read this book called Think and Grow Rich. And it literally, again, blew my mind because it was a book that was written over a period of 22 years. And Napoleon Hill committed these 22 years, no payment, to studying with access to 500 of the world's most successful people at this time, people like Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, some American presidents, and 10,000 failures, and put all of these learnings into a book and a formula and strategies. And he really talked about why people can pursue something and find massive success through it and why others can't. And again, it blew my mind, and that entered to this possibility, this thought for me, how have I not learned this before? Why have I not learned this before? How is this not taught in schools? So upon leaving New Zealand to Australia, I started shifting my mind a little bit And I got addicted to learning, believe it or not, because I did not, until probably 3 years ago, I hadn't read a book that wasn't Harry Potter. And now, I got, 15 books in a bookshelf at home, all business, personal development, success-based books. And so as I started shifting my mind and realizing stuff, every day I committed to learning. I was only working about 12 hours a week, so every morning I would wake up nice and early, set up my laptop, I'd be watching a seminar on YouTube, I'd be reading a book, or listening to something wherever I went. I was learning all this stuff, and it was literally just that feeling, how have I not learned this before? This is mind-blowing stuff. Not only could I apply it to today, but it's like learning a new skill. When you feel like you've grown as a person, you just have this new energy around you, and that was what was fueling me for this time. And because I was becoming, a slightly different person, I was thinking differently, the people that I interacted with, the conversation that I started having were very, very different. Meaning instead of just talking about events, parties, people, ideas, philosophies, turning into business now. And so when I went to Australia, I just went onto a site called meetup.com, found any entrepreneur events, went along, met people, and I was mind blown. I actually met a guy who was 18 years old, a really good friend of mine to this day, 18 years old, and during his time in high school, had built a business to over $2 million. This is his first year out of high school, and it's now over $30 million. And you hear something like this, and you're just like, what? Very normal guy, doesn't speak any differently to me, doesn't have anything different about him, yet if he wanted to, he could never work a day in his life. That blew my mind. And the fact was, he was doing what he loved. It was based around basketball, like basketball journalism. At age 18, he was running a company, and he now has employees. And I met other people who were like this in Sydney, and I questioned myself saying, what am I doing? So that led me to, wanting to find what I was passionate about. And then I realized what I was learning was stuff that not only was growing me as a person, helping me have better relationships, communicate better. Well, why don't I share this? One day I posted a status on Facebook called, and it said, don't be average, full stop, ever. I don't know, got like 20 likes, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Decided to make a Facebook page out of it. With the help of this guy, Alex, with a few months, we built this to about 3,000 people or something on Facebook. And I was just sharing what I was learning. That was all it was. Learn something, share it. Seemed cool. And eventually people would write into me based on something that I was writing on the page or something that they were going through. And I figured, well, I'll write back and work with this person. I'll help them, whatever, give them some advice. And I had a younger guy, probably about 16, write in saying he wanted to find passion in what he was doing. It was basketball. Wanted to have more motivation. And I just said to him, you know what, let's Skype. Let's just talk about it. And we sat down, helped shed some perspective on what he was doing, gave him a strategy to move forward, and then that turned into pretty quick results. And I was mind blown that I just did this quite quickly. I said, you know what, next time someone writes into me, I'm going to do it again. Different situation, but we got on Skype. Same thing happened, meaning I would talk to them, give them a strategy, move forward. They loved it. More of all, I felt something that I hadn't felt before, the way you do when you share knowledge, or you help someone empower themselves or improve in any way. I felt this way, and little did I know there was actually something where you could coach people to strategize their life, basically. But I just kept doing it just because I loved it. Right now, here is where God comes into the picture. Throughout my time after Ethan had started telling me all this stuff in New Zealand, and the next maybe 2 months in Australia, I can't tell you specifics, which annoys me because I can't remember them, but little things kept happening in my life that I had no explanation for. Whether it was a person coming into my life, an opportunity, learning something, an idea, feeling a certain way that I had no explanation for. And it kind of got to a point where I would be lying on my bed at night right next to this big window, and I'd open up the curtain just with this massive smile on my face and be like, okay, God, if you're real, where are you? And I would literally be expecting a twinkle in the sky. Like that was what I was expecting for a sign. Obviously, I don't know if any of that has happened to you. Lucky if it has, but God didn't instill that belief to me that way. So time kept going by, and it really just got to a point where I'd been to an event this night, and I just felt blessed. And I hopped off this bus, and I just remember standing in the street just screaming, like, thank you. I don't know who I was thanking because I know it wasn't God, but I looked up, and there was this big church, and just had this lit up blue cross, and I was like, you bastard. So I went home that night, and I wrote to Ethan, I said, you know what, I think if God's real, I will ask him into my life. I'm not saying I know that God's real, I'm saying if God's real. I was always open to saying, okay, challenge God. I was never going to give him this huge respect for something I didn't believe in, but I was open to it. And so he said, go and pray this prayer. I went down to this church, I sat on my skateboard, I looked up, I prayed this prayer, and in such hope that the clouds were going to move or the stars were going to shine, It didn't happen, but I did commit to checking out what church would be like. Little did I know the church that I had gone to was like maybe a Catholic church, very old school, cathedral, big church. I said, I'll go on Sunday. I even took a photo of the service times. One Sunday goes by, definitely not this Sunday. Another Sunday goes by, nah. Third Sunday, nah. Then I moved to the city. Church is gone. So 4 weeks go by and I'm living in the city, but every day I would go and play basketball in these massive courts. One day I was down there playing basketball, and you always meet people. I usually go by myself. I just met people there, pretty good quality players. 11 of these guys turn up, all about under the age of between, say, 20 to 25, dressed in soccer gear, just like smiling, laughing with each other. Really suck at basketball, but I just felt like these are good people. I want to go and talk to them. We got chatting, and I asked them, so, what are you guys all doing here? They were obviously together in a group. They said, oh, we're at a leadership college called Hillsong. Hillsong sounds cool. Eventually, I knew it was a Christian thing. We got on really, really well. We just connected. They were just some of the most positive guys that I met. And so they said, come back to ours. We're going to have pizza and watch the Bible series. I don't know if you'd heard what the Bible series is. It's a pretty cool TV series, kind of like a movie, though. I went back there. We kept chatting. And they wanted to invite me to church, but they didn't want to be pushy. So they didn't invite me. And so, we were leaving, and I was like, I've kind of been meaning to go to church. Like, could I come? And they're like, yeah, man, Sunday, 7:30, come along, whatever. Cool. I'm expecting this cathedral church, so I'm surprised that there's a night service. I meet up with them, we go walk into this room, and it's young people, international people, people smiling, DJ on stage, lights everywhere. I thought we were going to church. Hillsong, it would be like Life Central, the one I went to, but maybe I would say double size. Something like this, the one that I went to. Crazy. And then we get these seats, and it's just everywhere is packed. Seats reserved everywhere, all young people, because it's the night service. And they're like, you just leave your stuff here. We're going to go up the front. You want to come? I'm like, what's up the front? I have my sunglasses on here. We're standing there. There's a few people around. The music hasn't started. They're like, you might want to take your sunglasses off. I'm like, why? Like, they're just on my head. I think the song Alive starts. We all know Alive? Yeah. Oh, my gosh. The crowd there, if you've seen, maybe if you went to conference, what it was like there, probably like double. All these young people pushing each other like you get in a crowd. And I'm like, what is going on here? Yeah, I had to take my sunglasses off because it was like this. And then, so amazing music, amazing people, and then the message, okay, cool, what's the message going to be about? This time I've been doing a lot of personal development, learning from successful people, and the message that was spoken had so many similarities, it was crazy. It was like, yeah, they were talking about God and his relation to it, but so much of what I was learning was relative to this as well. When they said, if anyone wants to give their life to God, as they do, I don't know how it was worded, but I swear it was worded differently because I put my hand up and I wasn't saying, yeah, I want to give my life to God. It was like, I felt like there was maybe at least 1,000 other people in the room with their hands up. So when someone came over to me with the Bible afterwards, I was just like, what? Why me? Why me? And so I didn't feel like it. And I went back the next week and I put my hand up again. And they come along with the Bible. I'm like, what do you mean? I go on. And then the third week came by and I was like, I had to ask. I'm like, do I put my hand up again? And they're like, no, you're good. He's like, you're with God, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm with God. But from there, I walked life with these guys. I mean, they were all young guys my age, same ambition, same attitude, and it was perfect. So for me, that was that testimony with God that he stopped me going to this church, and then I found one that was perfect for me. I felt like home, and I met some guys who were friends with for life. And so when I get to go back to Sydney very shortly, it's going to be amazing. So what I want to kind of head towards is how God has started fitting into business, and I've only just realized this as of lately, is that not only the new connections, I tried finding a mentor for a while. I asked, pastors are usually pretty good communicators. I asked my closest regional pastor, and then the other one, I said, can I have a mentor? We sat down, yep, cool, we'll sort that out, we'll send some emails, blah, blah, blah. Have to follow up with them twice. Unusual for a pastor. I asked the other one, hey, you guys talked, right? And he's like, yeah, because he told me the pastors talked. Oh, yeah, I'll find your pastor, blah, blah. He even recommended, he said he would do it. 2 weeks ago, looks at me, I'll do it. And I'd met Stu once at this business breakfast, and I was like, yes, you will. But again, Stuart has been a perfect fit for me, and it's just been a blessing. But that's kind of slowly I'm realizing, I'm very impatient. When I want something, I'm like, yeah, I want it now, and I still want the best. So I have a paradox there that I want something fast and I want the best. But people like Alex coming into my life, Kieran again. Kieran is an amazing friend of mine, become one of my best friends, and I met him because a bunch of my friends decided we're going to do something that we haven't done for about 4 years and pick up our little skateboards and go skating in the car parks in the city. And here Kieran is, and he set up an event for busking on the street, right? Incredible, and now he's my flatmate and business partner and best friend. But here's just really what have been my biggest revelations in terms of my journey and just things that I see as teachings. And I have found Bible verses to back these up. Number one is having a clear vision. That's something which has been a massive testimony. Something that I teach is that your vision is what not only motivates you, inspires you, keeps you in line with the things that you should be doing and the things that you shouldn't be doing, and you always operate out of the end in mind. You know, in the Bible it says, those without a vision perish, but I think it's also the people around you in your business that perish when you're not 100% clear and you're not 100% clear why you're doing what you're doing. And it's very easy when we start a business to say, this is what we want, but actually it's another thing to see it. You know, you have that idea, you see what that looks like, then you feel what that's like, and you repeat that and you become to believe it. In Mark chapter 11:24, it says, therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, whatever you set as your vision for yourself, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. The second one is that you must grow yourself before you grow your income, and you must work harder on yourself than you work on your job. I personally believe that we get paid for value, and by learning and growing ourselves, learning more skills, developing our attitude, we have more value. We become better communicators. We have more confidence. We have a stronger attitude to push our businesses forward. In 1 Corinthians 13:11, when I was a child, I used to speak like a child, think like a child, reason like a child. When I became a man, I did away with childish things. And like at the start, I talked about how, you know, we come into business with just a passion idea, but there's no education or anything to back it up. As we grow ourselves, we can grow our businesses completely. And I don't know if you've heard of Jim Rohn, but he's a Christian guy and one of the biggest and most amazing success philosophers, I believe, and that was something he taught me. Thirdly, and this applies to every area of life, is that as you sow, so shall you reap. Meaning, always be a value giver. In terms of coaching and stuff, I spent the 6 months, not only just because I didn't want to charge people at the start, but just giving free coaching. And now that's come back to bless me absolutely, you know, in testimonies and word of mouth, and just because I was willing to give. And you can apply that to your health, to relationships, to your finance, to your business, etc. A third one, and I just came up with this last night actually, in terms of words, but have models, mentors, and mates. Right? So it says in Proverbs 13:20, whoever walks with wise becomes wise, but companion of fools will suffer harm. And it's just the fact that people have to be enhancing your vision. People have to be enhancing what you're all about. Mentors, people that have been in your position can help you. Model, someone who has already achieved the vision that you're going after, and mates who are yielding to what you're doing and who will support that. Now, I touched on this briefly, and it says your business cannot be the dictator of your emotion, but your emotion shall be the dictator of your business. Meaning, we all have a different values hierarchy, what we want most out of life. Say success. You know, it's a feeling, but we all have different rules of what it means to feel this way. So say someone who has a high value of success might say, every day that I'm standing above ground, I'm successful, so they are in that state of mind. Someone else might say, when I have a perfect family, a perfect health, and $1 million a year income, I'll feel successful. They're both going to have that same emotional state, but they both have rules for it. There was a TED talk done on happiness and success. Kieran's actually reading the book about it right now. I think it was what's his name? Sean Anker. And he basically actually spent time at Harvard studying basically this principle of how success affects happiness, and then how happiness affects success and productivity. And as you can imagine, your happiness literally is measurably larger effect on your success than your success is on your happiness, if that makes sense. Yeah, all good. Give me two. So with that, I said my quote that I live by is learn to love your life every day, and success has already come your way. That's my meaning of success. And then Proverbs 16:32, it says, he who is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who captures a city. And lastly, I'll just finish on, you know, what my book title is. It's Live More, Achieve More, Become More. And I had a revelation about this the other day, is that these are 3 principles of life. Number one is when God created Adam, He was there to live and just live only. Put into an awesome place and said, live, do what you want, live. Just like all the animals, they're just here to live. In a way, that's what we were created for, okay? And it's simplest, just living, finding amazing relationships, looking after your health, experiencing what the world has to offer you. I can't even say this, but in Ecclesiastes, I don't know the Bible book. There we go, 5:18 to 20 in the Message version, thankfully. It says, after looking at the way things are on this earth, here's what I've decided is the best way to live. Take care of yourself, have a good time, and make the most of whatever job you have as long as God gives you life. And that's about it. That's the human lot. Yes, we should make the most of what gives both the bounty and the capacity to enjoy it. It's God's gift. God deals out joy in the present moment, the now. It's useless to brood over how long we might live. Secondly, achieve, right? It means God has given you a gift, or, we all have something that we can contribute. It's not the cards that you're dealt with, but how you play those cards. It's just giving what you have to the world in some way. That's what I call achievement, right? Since we have gifts that differ according to the grace given to us, each of us is to exercise them accordingly. If prophecy, according to the proportion of his faith. Giving whatever you have in a way of servantship. And thirdly is becoming, is that at the end of your life, you're remembered for who you were as a person, how you made people feel as a result of who you were, and your achievement is ultimately going to become from the person that you grow into. Alex gave me this awesome verse, which is right at the beginning, Genesis 1:26. I'm made in the image and the likeness of God. And it's just developing that shape throughout our life. So in its simplest, that's what I live it down to, and every single day, what I think is the best way to succeed is that appreciate every part of your journey. Appreciate that, you can go into business, you can do something, you love that, and you can even strive for a vision. And appreciation has been by far the biggest turning point in my life, being able to appreciate the small things. So I appreciate you guys' time. Thank you very much.